Hello and welcome back to the GameShow Global Esports Cup European Division, and we're currently in the group stage number 2. This is going to be a 2-game series between 4 Clovers and Pub Players. I'm HeflaTV, and this time around I'm going to be joined by More Rage, please.
Indeed, it's going to be a good matchup here. The first thing I was looking for is to see if Pub Players were actually going to let the IO slip through the first ban phase, and they do. And curious to me that 4CNL, who often do not pass up on that being available in the pool, don't pick it up. IO Tiny still available for Pub Players. Actually, in their series yesterday in GameShow, though, 4CNL did fall with the Tiny in Bambo's hands and EGM's Wisp. So perhaps again, it's getting a little bit away from what's more standard there, and trying to just pick up what is definitely considered one of the stronger heroes in the meta in the Doom in the first phase.
If there's a hero to pass up EGM's Wisp for, it's Bambo's Doom, and I'm not sure if Pub Players are really all that interested in picking up the IO here. So if 4 Clovers want to, they'll probably get their hands on both, which is a terrifying way to start off the draft, even though Pub Players aren't going to be lacking any power, for sure. With the Lich Slaughter, this is a reasonable opening. It's not as scary, at least for me, as the Doom and IO. That is the 2 heroes that under no circumstances I'd want to give away to 4 Clovers. But I can understand them banning out the Broodmother, but maybe instead of the Queen of Pain, ban out the Whisper of the Doom.
Yeah, indeed. I feel like giving away the Queen of Pain is certainly not as scary. Bane pickup almost feels like they're even setting up for the relocates if they allow that to slip through again through this second phase. Already, though, as you mentioned, Pub Players with a pretty strong early lineup. This could be a dual off lane. Literally go towards that mid lane as well, depending on what the matchup ends up being there. So I don't mind the pickup. Both these heroes deal fairly well with the Wisp +1 combo anyways, even if they give it over with the Slithering Crush and the Chain Frost being available to them. So Timbersaw ban, though, a little bit curious.
That is very interesting, and for a lot of reasons. 4 Clovers, I mean, Doom, although he is a strength hero, counters Timber so hard. You Doom Timber and he is utterly useless, especially if you have Aghanim Scepter up. Reactive armor being disabled is also pretty significant, but the bigger thing is Timbersaw needs to get his spells off. This must be setting up for some sort of super heavy strength, low lockdown lineup for 4 Clovers, but also Bane's no slouch either. Yeah. In general, this is just a ban that we don't see very often, and it's very interesting given the fact that 4 Clovers already have 2 heroes that are very good against it. We'll have to see how this translates later on into the draft. Maybe it's mind games? I'm not sure Pub Players were really interested in picking it up, but I suppose a Lich Timber lane in and of itself is very powerful, so maybe 4 Clovers will have a weaker safe lane that wouldn't have been able to deal with that. The next couple of bans, it's going to be a Mirana ban from Pub Players. Pycat has played Mirana, and they also shifted around every once in a while too on 4 Clovers, but Pycat's been playing a lot of Potom recently, and then 4 Clovers will ban out the Razor.
Yeah, I mean, Mirana Ben, I guess you're a little bit scared of the Bane-Mirana combo, but something that really hasn't reared its ugly head for a long while in the pro scene and really at all in Dota. So both a little bit curious. Yeah, I mean, getting Timber early experience with the sacrifice from the Lich is certainly nothing you want to be giving away if you're 4CNL. So maybe they've done their homework as well. I mean, Pub Players, I don't know how long they've been together as 5, but some of these players are certainly capable of ruining a game as Timber, and the hero has the propensity to do so on his own. The IO will finally be taken out of the pool here from Pub Players, so it doesn't look like 4CNL will be able to go that route.
These are very player-specific bans in the second stage. These aren't your general meta heroes. 4 Clovers, without the Bane, have played the Mirana in their series yesterday. They pulled up Mirana twice, once for Pycat and once for Axmo, I believe, was playing it, and they put Pycat on the Alchemist. Ancient Apparition will be the pickup for Pub Players. Not only is this good at stopping Doom's Scorched Earth, which in and of itself is probably enough to warrant the pick, but it also dissuades choices like the Huskar, like the Alchemist, that 4 Clovers might have been interested in towards. Although both the Slaughter's Blindness Armor is very good against both of those heroes. For now, 4 Clovers are going to get the Tusk, and this is a hero that slipped through pool almost purely because of all of these very targeted bans.
Yeah, the targeted bans definitely allowing the Tusk to slip through, and I feel like 4CNL are very versatile at this point. The Bane has early roam and poke. He's got a good base movement speed as well, so you can put him over in the safe lane and aren't really totally relying on having another support by his side. The Tusk can be both in something like a dual off-lane scenario with the Doom. He can be in an aggressive tri lane. He can be roaming, and he can even be in the defensive tri. So I feel like really they haven't tipped their hand at all. I mean, now with the Dazzle pickup, it definitely will be a core role Tusk, but still, I think the dual aggressive off-lane is available to them, depending on where the Lich ends up across the map. Windranger for Pub Players, just a very stable pick, often wins that matchup mid lane, if not at least draws even, and pretty good against the single target of the Tusk, and some of even the physical damage of the Dazzle, even though that pick comes out before it.
This Dazzle pick is very interesting. Looks like four Clovers want to lane the Doom as a safe lane farmer. Although by no means do I think this is a bad choice. The amount of damage coming out from pub players' cores, the Starter and the Wind Ranger, is going to be ridiculous if they are at least on even footing with four Clovers. You get an early Aghanim Scepter on Wind Ranger, get a Blink on the Slaughter, Blink Crush, Amp, and then Focus Fire takes down heroes so very quickly, and it's also very good at securing Roshan for pub players. I think four Clovers might have invested a little heavily in this Doom pick, and also are very utility slanted when it comes to draft. However, if they pick up something like this Templar Assassin that just got banned out, at least something that offers a good amount of damage like the TA, they can still pull this draft together, although the first four picks aren't really meshing yet.
It's unorthodox, but I would really like to see an Axe Lich offlane for pub players here. I feel like the Slardar should fare decently well just against that solo Tusk alongside the Ancient Apparition with the Chilling Touch early on. Wind Ranger should draw even mid lane. Doom is pretty susceptible early on to physical damage, has 0 base armor, and the Lich being able to drag the wave back for that Axe, also countering up that shallow grave, I feel like could work really nicely with pub players. I mean, they don't scale extremely well, picking up the Axe, of course, having the Slardar in the 1 position, but I still feel like they could get a lot done in the early to mid game if they pick that up. We'll see if they go for something more stable, like perhaps a Clockwork in the off lane, but I feel like the Axe works pretty well.
Yeah. One of pub players' weaknesses, however, is the fact that Ancient Apparition and Lich, as far as rotating supports, are very weak, but static inside their lanes, I think they're strong enough to allow this Slaughter and Wind Ranger to completely snowball. And I think the chance that pub players run away with this game is very high, and it's going to rely on four Clovers abusing the fact that Lich and Ancient Apparition really aren't going to commit for early TPs and can't really commit for early TPs, and allow this Tusk to get a little bit active. Although this is going to be an offlane, Tusk should just get early levels on him and then help the other lanes while freeing up space for the other heroes. As four Clovers last is going to be an Invoker. We saw an Invoker last game. Very easily able to capitalize off of that Bane setup.
Very curious pick to me. I mean, Invoker, certainly Pycat is very capable of playing it, and I just don't know how well he can do mid lane without some serious rotations over, and Dazzle definitely not the hero to do it. Bane perhaps a little bit better, but still feel like the Invoker is going to be, it's going to be a tough go. Either way, the Slark pickup I don't mind here, of course, with the kite ability of their lineup, having the Crush, having the Shackles, having even the Ice Vortex and all these slows from the Lich. They should be able to get the Slark into the fog if he ever gets doomed up. So I don't mind that pick either, and of course Slardar in the offlane has been the most common role for him recently.
Yeah, in general, I like pub players' lineup quite a lot better. I think in their dual lanes, even though Slaughter is going to be in the offlane, I think he's still going to be able to get a reasonable amount of farm. The Doom by himself is enough to zone him out. Both of his heroes would be able to farm in that lane matchup, and Doom with very little killing potential on the Slaughter, I'd expect. So, you know what? We'll have to see how this plays. I think pub players have a better draft, but four Clovers individually skilled, I'd say, have the edge, and they have heroes that, especially this Invoker, are very easily able to outplay their opponents, and a lot of pressure is going to be put on these lanes. So that Slaughter, so the Wind Ranger and the Slark don't have a free time of it, because right now it looks like it's going to be difficult to set up those kills. A lot of focus on the early roam from the supporting duo from 4CL, but we've already kind of touched on all of the supports of this game are a little bit weak in that respect. It's something that they're going to have to do, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that if they drag the Lich back to this bot lane, how well those two supports will do defensively. It feels like AA and Lich should be strong enough. But either way, 4CL on the dire side, they're going to go towards this aggressive try early on. It's going to be Sexy Bambo on his Tusk. That's going to be Nikwa on the Bane. Over towards the Rune. Pycat going to be picking up the Invoker, EGM on the Dazzle, and finally Axemother on that Doom.
Yeah, and for pub players, I'm not sure who everybody is. They refuse to change their names, but MDL's on the Ancient Apparition, at least that's something we can stick around with. Slark is going to be safe lane farming for them. The Lich is going to be handled by Shock. That's another familiar name, so at least the supports are sticking with what they're supposed to be. And it looks like he's going to be going top lane with the Slaughter RNT on that hero, leaving last but not least the Wind Ranger to go on mid.
Yeah, and MDL doing a little blocking up for a Rend and Tear there, and Wind Ranger should fare very well despite Pycat having the Exort, early points in Exort to help him out with the last hitting. Nikwa a little bit aggressively postured right now. They put a deep ward down as well. Should be able to give them quite a bit of information as to who's present in the safe lane. And right now, PMA or Slark is in a little bit of trouble.
They have the Nightmare. Now they're going to group up for the heal bomb coming out from EGM. They're going to get right on top of him, body blocking the pounce. That heal with 3 heroes is huge. And the continued body blocking is going to make it difficult for him to get the pounce away, but he does succeed. Sexy Bambo is still going for the dive, salving up the Slark, is spotted out by this ward. They know exactly where he is, and they know that they can't quite kill him. If that happens again, however, and they're able to block that pounce, easy kill for 4 Clovers. The Slark is not having a good time, and I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. But maybe surprising is the fact that Pycat's doing so well in mid. Sunstrike going to be thrown, not quite clipping onto the Wind Ranger, and now might be in a little bit of trouble. Is losing this man fight, though Wind Run has expired. Interesting. With the Sunstrike on top of that, kill down towards bottom lane would have been very easily secured, but I'm not sure if Invoker was quite level 2.
Yeah, would have been close regardless. But Pycat certainly holding his own in this mid lane. And Equa is going to be spotted out by this range creep, so they're not going to be able to commit another wrap as their wave encroaches upon the tower. But for now, the Radiant side going to leave Shock over.
Another Nightmare. It's going to be toggled off, and with it, they're going to be repelled. The only lane we haven't looked at is this top lane, which looks like it's going very well for pub players, mostly because they have a Lich constantly denying. Slardar free farm. The Doom can do nothing to pressure Slardar's farm here.
Yeah, and I don't mind the decision
they're
at all.
hunting bottom. They're going to look for the Slark again. Body blocked with that heal bomb. Has a pounce. Should be able to get out of here alive, but he misses it. Or maybe. I don't know. The snowball's going towards the south. MDL's going to be your first blood in the Ancient Apparition. The Slark survives, if only just. And it looks like he's going to be able to walk his way out of here. But nonetheless, 4 Clovers get a quick start in this bottom lane.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't mind the decision to commit to this aggressive tri-lane from 4CNL, and there's been no reaction from Shock at all on the Lich. He's kind of stayed top, and surely they're going to deny Doom up his farm a bit, but as long as Devour keeps ticking away and he keeps getting those levels and gets to that level 6 mark, he should be able to get active and find some gold that way. So I don't know if really the decision is to leave Shock alongside RNT. I mean, he should fare at least evenly with the Doom, and considering the level advantage he already has hereafter, 1v1 should be just fine.
Oh, double damage. Dune gets 1 smack, 2 smacks into the Lich, but now in a bit of trouble. Sprinting forward, he's going to drop the Ice Armor himself. Crushed up, Axmo is going to be pounced down to the ground, and Slark is going to make sure that Shock is just tantalizingly far away, and adds salt to the wound with the Frost Blast securing the kill. 1 for 1 across the map. Pub players are going to switch up their lanes a little bit. Slark's had a terrible time, but now Slardar, with his start, could probably stand against this tri-lane bottom, at least get experience, although his farm would be severely delayed. Are pub players going for a full lane swap? It looks like they might be.
Yeah, at this point, the Ancient Apparition rotating up to top as well. And no one even present in this Radiant safe lane right now. Mid lane, though, Nikwa's stalking, and there's no boots on Rend and Tear right now. He doesn't have enough mana for Windrun either, but the bottle is coming out.
And now Slardar's here with the Crush. Nightmare's going to pull him out of that. They don't want to commit onto this Nightmare. It seems Pycat hasn't pulled the trigger with the Sunstrike, and it probably wouldn't have been a kill either way. Would rather reserve that mana. 175 at this point for the Invoker is quite costly.
Yeah, top lane, it looks like the Slark's starting to recover a little bit. Should find a pretty big wave under the tower, but Sexy Bambo, all the meanwhile, soaking up some XP on his Tusk bottom lane, is going to be joined up by his opponent in the Lich, but should have some early levels and start to get pretty aggressive alongside the Bane shortly hereafter. MDL going to contest this 4-minute rune. EGM looking to secure it and may just have to pick it up on the Dazzle.
The
we'll have
Nightmare,
to do so.
the Wind Ranger, and now they have the Sunstrike over onto the Wind Ranger. They have the heal bump, but not quite enough damage afterwards because of the Wind Run. It's very interesting to look at this game and the farm from either side. They keep on going, looking for the damage. She's juking it out, throws the shackle, the right click connects and kills her off with the Invoker's Alacrity point. That did a lot more damage than I'd expected, and probably a lot more than the Wind Ranger did. She doesn't have the largest of HP pools and would be brought down. Nice kill for 4 Clovers, but as I was saying before, across the board, it's so interesting to see these safe lane farmers struggling so much. Both the Slark and the Doom aren't getting CS at all, and the offlaners are getting so much room.
Yeah, it's they're quasi 1 positions at this point. Looks like Nico's going to deny himself to the Ancients for now and get a free trip back to base. Bought himself out and has a TP, so he'll probably be able to join up EGM in this top lane alongside Bambo, who's rotated. Doesn't have that level 5 yet, but still 2 points in the shards and the snowball. Pretty good toolkit to have this early on. And doubt he was scouted. EGM was definitely scouted, and there was pings from MDL, so perhaps they did catch a glimpse of the Tusk as well.
And maybe as he was rotating this top lane with the deep ward that was blocking out the camp or something like that. If nothing else, they have a pretty good idea that the Tusk is on the move.
Yeah, not showing in bottom lane. It's going to give RNT some space on the Slardar. He's got 1,000 gold all of a sudden, and really had a great time over in that top lane, and hasn't been contested since he had to move to give him his Slark some space. So Slardar should have an early bank, be able to get pretty aggressive. Pycat mid lane, alongside Nikwa rotating in. Windrun already popped, and now Ren and Terra in a little bit of a perilous position. Cold Feet will be there onto Pycat, and they're going to put damage into the Invoker. They get him down first with the rotations in from the Lich. Chilling Touch going to be popped up. Nikwa getting a little bit low. Miss from the high ground Shackle. Also going to be a little bit of an optimistic one from Ren and Terra. Won't catch on the Bane, but they do turn it nicely onto Pycat.
That was so awkward from the Invoker. They are going to bump into the Slark. He has a pounce this time. I don't think they're going to be able to lock him down, though. They're going to try. Body blocking from Sexy Bambo. The heal bomb. Snowballs there. They blow him up. Nicely done for Clovers. That shouldn't be as easy a kill, but they execute perfectly. When it comes to just their positioning around the Slark, he had no opportunity to leave. 3-2 is going to be our kill score for Clovers, with the slight advantage in that respect. But this Slardar's Blink is something that is going to concern them later down the line. For now, however, the Slardar has decided to go for treads first. By no means is this bad, but the snowball on top, they're going for shock. The Lich is going to be isolated. That heal bomb again. EGM is doing so much damage with that spell. Usually you don't think of Dazzle as a huge nuker, but when you combine him with this Tusk and get 3 heroes on top of him, it really is.
Yeah, they're going to be able to start pressuring into this tier 1 as well. So good reactions top lane, seeing the Lich and the AA rotate in for that Invoker heal. They immediately go for the Slark. And as they see the Slark on the map, they're able to go for the Lich as well. Bambo going to TP bot lane, at least stymie the push.
Mid lane, RNT looking for the dive onto the Bane with a double damage Wind Ranger, amped up by the Slider. Easy kill there, even with the Nightmare, to buy Bane a little bit more time. Return kill for pub players in that mid lane.
Yeah, bot lane, just some harass from Bambo. 1v1 right now versus Slark, but the rotations are coming in from MDL. He's going to get the pounce off. Does not have the Shadow Dance. Needs to be a little bit careful, but the Cold Feet going to back off Bambo for now.
Tusk had one charges, even though he didn't have mana immediately, but now up towards top, they're going to be sprinting forward for Axmo. He pops his stick, but Hurley can't do much of anything. He's only level 5 here. Axmo is going to get a lot of damage onto him, but Scorched Earth is a bit balanced here. 3 points into it, he's still going to die, although it takes them so long to chase him through. With 3 points up in the Scorched Earth, you out-regen most of that damage, but eventually they'll kill him, and that's what counts in the end. Wind Ranger, looking for this Invoker, is going to go pretty deep behind enemy lines, but won't be punished.
Yeah, Ren and Terra going to be fine for now. Bot lane, MDL is trying to find some space, and yeah, that Ice Blast is going to be very crucial to them being able to pick off the Doom, as we saw just momentarily top lane. But Bambo going to be able to pick up his level 6 here under the wave, and now really going to be able to put in punishment into PMA Slark. Not really anywhere near that Shadow Dance just yet. Just picks up his level 5. He's going to need a little bit more space, and none of the support's really nearby as they rotate EGM in down bot lane. TPs do come in from Shock, though, on the Lich.
They know about this. It was pinged out by the Ancient Apparition. They should know that they're going for this dive. Slark isn't safe under his tower, however, and let's see how good they are at reacting. Even with the Lich here, it's not 100% sure that they get this kill for now. They're a little bit hesitant. We'll open up with the Nightmare. Group up around the Slark. They have the Sunstrike. They have the Snowball. Lich's ultimate's bouncing, however, between Nikwa and EGM, but it's just not quite enough damage to get either of these supports. Power Shot turning around after the Shackle onto Sexy Bambo. Nicely done, Wind Ranger. But can they get Bambo? They don't have a way to cancel his TP, and the Focus Fire, not enough damage. He'll get out to safety. That was a really cool maneuver from the Wind Ranger, getting the Shackle Focus Fire on one behind and then turns around for the Power Shot kill, but had they had the Power Shot, they would have gotten the more important pickoff onto Bambo, so it unfortunately does not pan out for them.
A little bit of greed, perhaps, a very flashy play, but yeah, Bambo, very aware, is able to TP out there. I feel like there was going to be a Frost Blast, but maybe just that 8-second cooldown a little bit too much to get it off once again onto Bambo, and the Fog of War helping him out. EGM finding a little bit of space bot lane. Will find his level 6 very soon on the Dazzle as well. So everyone across the board from 4CL is finding at the very least levels, even though the Axmo's farm in the safe lane has been stymied quite heavily.
Even though it's been slowed down, Doom, just by nature, farms very quickly and is not too far behind his opponents on the enemy side, but mid lane, Shackle lands on a Pycat. They'll blow up this Invoker after the Cold Feed procs, and there's just nowhere to run. He can't even move. The Invoker's been saving up for a Midas. Does he have it done? Pycat's Midas is on the Courier, so that's where all his gold is. He's not super far behind by any means, but being dead after picking up that item is just so sad, and it's not nearly going to have as big an immediate impact as the 2,000 gold item on the Slardar. They'll get the dive under the tower in the Ancient Apparition. That's nice for Bambo, but is it nice enough? Losing the Invoker does sting.
Yeah, he gets that from the high ground by virtue of that dire ward and just able to snowball in for one right click. So easy kill for him. And Bambo has been able to find quite a bit on this Tusk early on, but don't know that he's created really enough space for his cores just yet. Axel going to be backed out of top lane with that amp damage, and Midas is going to be finally recovered here by Pyket, so he'll be able to start to accrue some farm. But yeah, feels a little bit weak early on, this Invoker, and it's generally the reason that we don't see him picked up all that often. Good silver lining, though, for 4CNL is that this Slark, albeit has the Shadow Dance now and will be able to start jungling, is very far behind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we compare his net worth, he's very close to the Dazzle, just like 50 gold behind the Dazzle, which is never where you want your Slark to be ever. Unless, of course, it's a mid-dazzle, but no, EGM's just having a pretty good time and Slark's having a terrible time. And can't contribute nearly as well as some other carries when behind. Slark, I mean, he does have a good amount of magic nuke and is fairly survivable, but not against especially the Doom and the Fiend's Grip. It's going to be really hard for him. And right now, let's see where those first usages of those spells are going to be. Bane still doesn't have his level 6. We'll find it down towards bottom very quickly. And now...
Ice Blast, top lane. Is not going to connect onto Axmo, so they probably won't go in. And the blink is not out just yet for RNT as well. He's still about 300 gold away from that.
Might as well fish with the Ancient Apparition's ultimate. It's such a low cooldown that it doesn't really cost them much. But once they have that blink on the slider, if that lands, maybe it's some kills. Although, still the Doom, even though he isn't going to be able to fall back on that regen from Scorched Earth, is naturally fairly tanky with just the amount of stats that he has. So, we'll have to see. Although the stat that he's lacking is armor, and Slider is going to take away any little amount that he does have. The game's slowed down quite a lot. We haven't seen kills for the longest of times, it seems. It feels like we're just waiting for the Slider, as he's aggression bubbling under the surface for pub players.
I worry a little bit for pub players in that their Lich has been completely committed to playing the hard 5 because they want this Ancient Apparition probably to get up on Midas and an Ags at some point. But, I mean, Lich only really needs Tranquils, and he picks that up now, so should sustain himself for the next little while. But we'll see how the War of Attrition in terms of the warding ends up panning out because of that. Ancient Apparition sitting on 1,000 gold right now, probably just looking for that early Midas.
Yeah, and you should be able to get that at a reasonable timing window, but not nearly as much farm as the side of Forceal. We already have an urn on their Bane, and the makings of Medallion on their Dazzle. Slark's disconnect down towards bottom lane comes at a pretty awkward time. He was just spotted out by Bane and a handful of illusions, but shouldn't be lethal. Slark should be able to walk out if you're alive, with or without the disconnect. But they really do need this Slark to come back into this game. Maybe involve him with a couple of kills in the gank train with the Slider would be the best way, even though Slark's not going to be contributing too much inside those jumps. Just get him inside range for the AoE golden experience.
Yeah, I feel like you try and find the Invoker. In general, you'll probably see at least 3 of the other 4 heroes together, or at least in close proximity on the map. So maybe you're able to find the Invoker if you're able to smoke up and plant a deep ward into that jungle. But yeah, for now, the Slark is certainly going to be a little bit hard-pressed to at least farm in vision. So are going to have to be diligent about keeping him safe or keeping a support behind him at all times. Speaking of which, Shock going to be scouted out here by the illusions. And Bambo comes in. He's got his Frost Blast on cooldown. Now they shard him up. Walrus Punch. And the pure damage from the Brain Sap is there as well. They should be able to turn this, though, if the Pounce latches. And it will. Shackle Shot going to be able to come through as well. Power Shot is there. Niqua getting a little bit low. Ice Blast going to fly through. Is not going to connect onto Niqua. Will connect onto Sexy Bambo. And the shards keeping Niqua safe for now. He gets the Brain Sap up. The Doom is there as well. Slark is dead to rights at this point. Walrus Punch going to finish him off. The win run expiring in about 2 seconds from now. And RNT with his freshly picked up Blink is going to come through with a 2-man crush. Shards are there onto the Wind Ranger. And the grip is from the north and will bring down the Slardar. No more follow-up for this Radiant lineup. And now Renanter having to back off everyone. Pretty heavily scathed from 4CNL, but going to walk away with their lives.
Pub players just didn't have the heroes there appropriately in order to focus down these targets. For CNL, get out with the Tusk and Bane barely with their lives. If they kill the Bane immediately, and, well, with just the first barrage of spells, I mean, not necessarily getting a burst kill onto him, then they don't lose their Slark. It really was those Ice Shards initially by Bambo that bailed out the Bane that make that so worthwhile for 4CNL, and with all of the cores from pub players running around, this is a lot of space for Pycat to farm, and a lot of space for, not necessarily the Doom, he was involved in that skirmish, but the Dazzle to get up some levels. It's working out pretty nicely for them, as they're getting farm on all of their heroes, whereas especially the Slark is so far behind.
Yeah, and Dazzle going to be able to pick up a Medallion. So on top of the Forge Spirits, although their lineup doesn't look very good at Roshan on paper, it's going to help out quite a bit. Maybe they're able to sneak that at some point hereafter. So yeah, Pycat finding some space after the 2 early deaths is definitely going to be pivotal to this lineup starting to hit their stride towards this early mid game.
And more importantly than the farm he's getting from Mice, the levels. He's now a level 11 Invoker, has those 2 Forge Spirits up to split push, to farm, and in general just to make a nuisance of himself to the enemy team. It's so important to get the experience up for the Invoker. But up towards top, Blink Crush onto EGM. They're going to look for a very easy kill onto the Dazzle, and with the bash they'll get it. The Cold Snaps onto the Slider, but the Forge Spirit damage is negligible at best. The Slider will be able to very swiftly get out of there alive.
Yeah, he'll be able to shrug that off. Axmo perhaps in a bit of trouble mid lane. Shot gonna rotate in. Shackle does lapse. Chain Frost is there. And with the Frost Blast, if they get a lucky bounce here, they should be able to bring him down with the Scorched Earth and the Jump Charge. Actually going to keep him back. So as you were mentioning before, that raw HP, the base stat there from Axmo, going to keep him safe for now. And having them use the Ice Blast top lane, they cannot mitigate.
Those bounces from the Chain Frost were really just quite unlucky on the Axmo. They only get 2 to connect, and with 50 HP regen, they really need an Ice Blast on top of those 2 heroes. If Ice Blast is available and wasn't just used to kill off EGM top, then maybe they're able to pull that one off. But Doom will survive. Still, no team has put major pressure onto objectives. Of course, the tier 1 tower down towards bottom lane has fallen a long time ago. That hasn't changed the state of this game at all, really.
Yeah, Slark in a lot of trouble here. He's going to have to Shadow Dance right away. Shards will not land. He will be able to pounce and TP out. Well played by him. But still, asserting pressure across the map as this trio, as they've been doing all game. And the Slark still sitting underneath all 3 cores from the Dire side.
In the meantime, top lane, Slider going to be able to kill off the Invoker with a little bit of help from the Ancient Apparition. This AA Slider combo can very easily kill off any single hero from Forest CNL, although to varying degrees of certainty when it comes to getting that pick off. It's still very strong. Mid lane, the Doomed Wind Ranger is going to be right-clicked down by Axmo. Nothing she can do, but RNT wants to look for the turn. Just going to throw the vision onto the Doom as the tier 1 tower is denied by the Tusk.
Rotations in from EGM and Nikwa. Do they want to look to turn this? They're going to place, at least for now, a deep ward, which should soon enough give them the vision of the Slark. And it is pinged out there from Sexy Bambo. We'll see if they rotate in. He is very low. Does have 11 stick charges and will be able to now regen up.
He's being so greedy about this. If he walks close to the Bane here, this is a brain sap kill. Sunstrike, they're going to look for it. They won't be able to kill off the Slark with it. His Slark is going to be able to get off his ultimate, pounce over the top. Ice Shards aren't going to wall off RNT. Gets the crush, Sexy Bamboo and EGM so low, but with the Fiend's Grip, with the punch, maybe they can get RNT out of here. The Lich ultimate is going to bounce once to EGM, but he still survives from it. The Slarder will go down, and nobody from Force CNL has fallen. Shackle Shot is going to land in Axmo, but that's not going to be able to be followed up. There's too many backup heroes around here. Power Shot will line up. The Doom doesn't care, and for CNL, get away with murder, quite literally. That Slardar was so close to getting 2 kills, but close doesn't cut it when the Bane's in position, and he was.
Yeah, Axmo now 2,400 gold on the Doom. We'll see what the build is from him. Generally expect something like a Blink or a Shadow Blade at this point, but against the Slark, perhaps. You run into that Aghanim Scepter to keep refreshing it as long as you're near him and not allow him to benefit from that Shadow Dance. Slark, Sexy Bambo, going to stalk him top lane. He does have a TP at this point, and just going to show himself under wave. The Ice Blast going to bounce through. He's got a double damage rune, but won't be able to close the gap. Doesn't have a set of drums or really any initiation tool to his name as he is super underfarmed. Doom was ready, and the Dire Ward scouting him out, but the Slark get him back off there after getting a little bit aggressive on the Tusk.
I really just haven't seen a Slark this underfarmed for the longest of times, but I think there's still enough time for him to come back into this game, and he's not playing terribly. But the biggest issue for them is the fact that 4CNL now have double Shadow Blades, one on the Tusk, one on the Doom. This is their initiation items, although personally I would have liked to see one of them go for the Blink, either Doom or the Tusk. Well, I have to see how effective these first couple pickups are, which are really formative when you go for this Shadow Blade. But right now, the Doom, looking for the TP out, is going to succeed. They can't quite get in range to cancel that TP, and I'm not sure if they really saw him. They're going to go down towards bottom lane with these Invis Blades. Doom is going to lead the charge, and Slark, I don't think he sees it coming.
He pretty dead if they're able to get in range here. And yeah, Doom pops off and probably can just find a solo kill. Doesn't really need Sexy Bambo to rotate in. Sunstrike going to be there. He's going to try and regen up with the Shadow Dance. And Axmo actually guesses wrong. Shards come through, though. Bambo not going to be fooled so easily by the Slark. And he'll be brought down. Ice Blast into the pit with the Power Shot on top of it. And the Shadow Wave
have a shackle
there. They get the Shackle off, they get the Frost Wave, and EGM is down. Ghost Walk from Pycat keeps him safe. They drop a sentry on the ground, but now Sexy Bambo rotating in. Shards onto 2, Walrus Punch on the Shock. Axmo needs one right click with the Shadow Blade. He gets it. And now the Lich going to be down. They cancel the Blink from the Slardar with that negative Earn tick, and they get the Shards through. He's going to try and crush onto 2. He gets it. They get the Shackle to latch on Bambo, but it's just going to try to keep the Dire side at bay. And it will be successful in doing so. So overall, they get the Slark bot lane. They get the Lich. They do lose the Dazzle by the pit, but Pycat's able to survive underneath that Ghost Walk.
Another situation where the Lich Ultimate isn't getting the bounces that they really wanted. Ideally, that's super easy kills for them, but there were too many summons with the Forge Spirits and the Roshan taking the majority of those bounces. The Ice Blast is going to fly, connects onto the Invoker, and Force CNL are going to have to think twice about committing for this Roshan, even though it is less than half HP. I don't think they really have enough left in the tank unless they can find another pick-off. Pings down the ground, coming up for the Wind Ranger. I don't think they've necessarily spotted out the Tusk with his invis down, but they spot him before he uses it, and now it's right around the corner. It's going to bump into the Slark, throws Ice Shards, maybe trying to steal some last hits. Not going to happen as the rest of the team is coming in force. They're inside the Roche Pit. The Slardar is going to look for a Blink Initiation, catches out 2 on the EGM and Pycat. They have another Ice Blast flying, and the Invoker will fall, shackled to the dead Invoker's corpse. EGM will also die. They lose their Slardar as he's isolated. Now the Shadow Blade hit, lose the Wind Ranger. Axmo will be Frost Blasted down by the Lich, and the Slark is trying to chase forward for some kills, but with the Doom buyback for CNL could very easily contest this Roshan. Radiant Sentry down the ground. Ice Shards are not going to wall anybody off. They'll get a Nightmare on the Shock. The Lich is going to be left alone. The Snowball is going towards the Slark, but I don't think that has any chance of reaching. And they'll just settle for this Lich kill, it seems. Another couple more shots and a Walrus Punch to secure a monster kill for Bambo. And he really has had a monster of a game. Second highest net worth in the game as a Tusk. Yes, please. They're going to go into Roshan now, and they should be able to mop this up very easily. Although it does cost them Axmo's buyback.
Yeah, I almost feel like if they replace Pycat with any other hero here, they're doing even better. But for now, they do secure that Roshan in a good fight. It cost them a buyback on their Doom, but he was unable to use the Doom in the entire engagement, even with his second life. So they still have that available on top of the Aegis here. And with Pycat respawning with his Forge Spirits at the ready, look for them to probably pressure up soon on one of these remaining tier 1s.
Yeah, and right now for CNL, although they aren't necessarily sitting on the highest scaling heroes, they have more farm than the enemy's side on pretty much all fronts. The Bane has himself what's almost going to be a Blink Dagger. Even after backing off for a lot of small intermediary items, a Blink Grip Initiation could be amazing. And the Doom, the Tusk, the Invoker, all sitting convincing at the top of the chart, and this is going to start being reflected in net worth chart as a whole. Although this advantage is still something that pub players can fight against, it relies increasingly so on then landing the Shackles, and then landing the Ice Blasts, which aren't 100% reliable.
Top lane, Bambo looking to initiate on the Slark, but the Radiant Sentry on top of the wave does scout him out, and they're aware of that now for the Dire as the wave started to attack him, but continuously applying pressure and keeping the Slark from farming is more or less accomplishing what they come to do. And smoke behind the Slark, they're going to try and bait him out, knowing how juicy of a target he's been at this point. But Bambo, underneath the Shadow Blade, will be able to pop that smoke. Essentially going to be a little bit too late from the Lich to be able to scout him out. So that rotation is going to be thwarted for now. And Bambo going to be able to ping that out. TPs are going to be inbound from Nico. Has that Fiend's Grip at the ready. Need to be careful though. 4 heroes from the Radiant side present in this top lane. Doom does have a TP as well as the Dazzle. So we'll see if they're able to sustain themselves long enough for rotations to come in. Pycat can always contribute with at least a Sunstrike.
Yeah, Sexy Bambo's going to be going for a Deathslayer next. It's a scary amount of farm for him, but right now, defensively postured enough. Without vision on too many of the enemy heroes, the Radiant team can't go for them under their tower because they don't know where the Doom and the Dazzle are. If there's a Dazzle behind this Tusk, you just can't go for him, and even if the Dazzle's not there now, it's a tier 1 tower. You can TP to there very swiftly and respond. So pub players are losing a lot of momentum as the Invoker farms up, as the Doom farms up, or they're grouped up not accomplishing anything. And now with the Shadow Blade down towards bottom, Axmo wants to go. The Lich pings out a couple of times. This MDL seems to be baiting a little bit. The Wind Ranger and the Lich were coming in from the north, and the Doom is going to decide to pull out here. That is until Sexy Bambo joins the party. He has his Shadow Blade, and he wants to go pretty darn bad. He's going to spot at the enemy side, opens up onto the Slark with the Snowball Ice Shards. He's going to be able to purge off a little bit of that stunning action. Is up towards the north. They lose their Aegis on the Doom. He gets the Doom and the Wind Ranger, however. Taking this fight afterwards could prove to be difficult, although they'll open up with the Crush on Axmo. They don't have detection for the Shadow Blade that he was able to pop. And now with one right right-click, they should be able to kill off the Wind Ranger, especially with the crit. Lich Ultimate's getting good bounces, but defensive Snowball says no to Lich's ultimate. Shock can't do anything after that. Blinking Crush catches 2 on the edge. That was beautifully done by RNT, but can he win the fight afterwards? Not with the level death and not with a grave on the Doom. The Slark is going to die. The only thing that costs them is Sexy Bumbo, and granted, that is a very farmed Tusk, but now they're going to catch another on the retreat. Sunstrike squarely lands onto him. Triple kill for Axmo with another level death.
Yeah, and that's going to give him the makings of a Vlad's there as well. So very well drawn out. Feels like EGM held onto the Shadow Wave right after the Snowball save from the Chain Frost a little bit too long, and perhaps the Tusk dies there, but because of it. But either way, 4CNL still taking a very favorable engagement. They do have their Doom a little bit out of position early on, and he ends up losing the Aegis for it, but they're still able to bring down the Wind Ranger after he respawns underneath the duration of that Doom. And meanwhile, mid lane with the Necro Books, Tier 2 is pretty much dead to rights.
Yeah, the Invoker didn't need to commit very much for it, and he even gets Tower Destruction, or at least the Catapult does. His army of units don't. Wind Ranger's not able to secure the deny. Still, a nice advantage for 4CL because they're able to take that fight even without Pycat there in person. The Max Exhort Sunstrike did a lot of damage, and with Invoker's build, I think this is the way to play it. Although, personally, I like to see my Invokers be a little bit more active. You know what? It's working out for this game in particular, and 4CL are doing very nicely across the board, whereas pub players are just not getting any momentum. This Slark is the second lowest net worth on his team, and the third lowest in this game. He's never done anything. I mean, he's gotten doomed. There's so many reasons why he can't make these rotations. His lane went poorly, and now he might get doomed again. It's just going to be Axmo coming in for the casual devour and potential wraparound. He has the Doom spell. Maybe he'll look for one of his supports on the sidelines, but he is alone, so not going to decide to go for that.
Yeah.
Still, pub players are vastly behind when it comes to the metrics.
Yeah, pretty safe play from Doom there. I mean, you don't really know exactly what's behind him, as the Dire Observer wards are a little bit more to the north. And if a support's nearby, you probably waste that cooldown, and they just slow you and kite you and let the Slark regen. So I don't mind that from him, and either way, they're finding farm everywhere. I mean, you mentioned it, the Blink Dagger coming out a little while ago for the Bane. Now he's still got 1,100 gold on top of that. Is more farm than the Slark by a pretty considerable amount. I mean, RNT's picked up the Armlet, which is nice in terms of the value that it grants you as a Slardar, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be nearly enough for him to kind of take over these engagements. And speaking of engagements, you're going to see the Dire side look for one here, two-man smoke from EGM and Bambo. They're going to join up alongside Axmo bot lane, and at the very least, look to pressure this tier 2 as their tier 1 in the safe lane does go down to the Radiant.
And the only one that's around the corner is MDL and the Ancient Apparition. Midas is the large creep and leaves the rest theirs. They're just covering this Invoker and the Doom, as they should be able to take down this tier 2 with or without the Necrobooks popped. Just the Forge Spirits should be enough, and they don't even have to commit that longer cooldown. Can either keep on going with the Necro units or look to back off and defend. But pub players' damage output on towers is so very little. The Wind Ranger Aghanim Scepter, although that's good, is not enough in and of itself, and they're going to lose some high ground towers if they're not careful. They'll pop the Glyph, but the Necrobooks are still working on to it. They'll get the Amp onto the Doom, they'll get the Shackled Lech on the Necro unit, and they'll kill that off. But, yeah, this fight still could break out. More power shots will be thrown. 4CL for now are being repelled.
Yeah, and Radiant need to be careful not to overstep. 4CL are not going to really look to feed over any advantage they have right now. They know the Roshan is spawning fairly soon, at minimum spawn at least, and they are going to pick up some pretty key items here. With Pycat going to be able to set up his own combo now with the Eul Scepter and the full Tessellator coming out for Bambo, third overall on the net worth chart. Definitely they look to reset and increase their power curve a bit, and now maybe look to go back in and at least take a Roshan engagement where they are pretty darn good around the pit. Of course, Pubstar's no slouches there either with the Ice Blast, and the Shackle Shot, and the Crush available to them. And Chain Frost on top of that as well.
Yeah, pub players can't afford to use any of their spells less than optimally because they're not getting the appropriate item progression to back that up. Usually at this point, Tusk's solo kill potential is vastly scaled off, but now when you have this amount of damage, they're going to jump at the high ground. Snowball onto the backline is going to stop the follow-up from the Wind Ranger. She's obliterated! My goodness, that Walrus Punch did so much. They're getting good chain bounces from the Lich ultimate. Is that even going to kill anybody, though? They Shallow Grave Nikwa just in case. They lose 2 kills. Pub players go into that mostly blind. Like, of course, they have a couple of wards, but you can't go up that high ground unless you know where the enemy team is, and 4CL were there in force.
Yeah, especially not with 3 heroes. I mean, it's understandable that the Ancient Apparition is across the map. He's going to contribute an Ice Blast either way. But you got to at least have the rest of your lineup there to be able to walk uphill without vision like that. So, yeah. I mean, you do need to make kind of desperation plays at this point before the Roshan, but maybe you wait for the pit engagement or you do something with a little bit more intel behind it. So, yeah, very brazenly they walk up high ground and they're going to be punished pretty heavily for it at this point. And they really have no item progression to speak of. Top lane, Walrus Punch is there, Sunstrike as well, and maybe not even needed onto the Slark. They're going to continue to keep him down. At this point, the lead is pretty monumental for 4CNL. 12k in the way of net worth and about the same in the way of experience.
It's really hard. My mouse bucked out and I wasn't able to catch that kill on camera because it happened so fast. Just a Walrus Punch Sunstrike, and that's pretty much a dead Slark. The Desolator Walrus Punch is absurd, especially when you add in the fact that Doom is going to be offering not only the Vladzor that he's purchased up, but also the Alpha Wolf aura. It's going to mean this physical damage from Tusk is not something that pub players can mess with. 24 to 13 is our kill score. It's only a matter of time before this next Roshan pops up, and 4CL consider going high ground.
Yeah, that should be the cue for them, and they probably should be able to take it pretty easily, but I don't think without contest. I feel like, I mean, pub players, you either rely on a pit or you rely on your high ground.
Boots have traveled down to the bottom lane looking for the skill on Wind Ranger. She has been doomed up. There's no real hope of retreat. The Deafening Blast and Meteor is going to mostly miss, but the right clicks won't. It is a very easy kill. Even though Pycat's combo is less than perfect, you don't need a perfect combo when you have just that much raw damage.
Yeah, and at least forces her into a choke, having to dodge that either way. So,
Oh, for sure.
pretty easy kills going their way, and movement across the map has been great from 4CNL. The laning stage goes pretty well for them, aside from their Doom, and they're just able to translate that into some really good aggression and movement, mostly from Bambo and the two supports throughout that mid game, and Pycat able to slowly farm, and now they're with the alacrity on the Necro units. I mean, no glyph on the Radiant side. This is going to be easily at least this range Rax.
Probably melee too. Wind Ranger's not buying back. She's down for 20. They'll buy back the Wind Ranger to get the pounce as well as the crush to connect on the Axmo, but he's still pretty tanky. Deafening Blast will buy them a little bit more space. Shackle not gonna latch, but Bambo shatters just the same with the focus fire coming out from the Ranger. It's gonna be a successful hold for now. Can they get anything else on retreat? However, Blink Crush, they catch out EGM, Bash, and a couple more right clicks. EGM's in a lot of trouble as TP's gonna be canceled by the Shackle, and one way or another, EGM will fall. But that is a costly defense coming out from pub players. And of course they kill off the Tusk, but he's not even their biggest issue. They need to call out this Invoker and the Doom if they're going to feel comfortable about spending the buyback on Wind Ranger. But next time around, if she gets picked off, game might just end right there.
Yeah, and Invoker spell's mostly down, so probably won't be able to kill off this Slark, but rotation or wraparound here from Nikwa may be able to secure it. He's actually going to TP back, feeling a little bit unsafe at this point. But yeah, Pycat, even though they lose that engagement, able to TP to across to the other side of the map, continue taking away his Midas, shoving out the lane. So really, there's never really been an opportunity for the Radiant side when they do take favorable engagements to secure an objective off of it.
Yeah, the big issue for pub players is the fact that their Slark has no mobility item, and the blink on the Slider in and of itself hasn't set up nearly as many kills as they'd like to. As soon as they got it, they got 2 kills in lane with the Ice Blast and the Slider Crush combination. That's good and all, but as soon as 4CL got these double Shadow Blades, it's just been gank after successful gank, and pub players haven't been able to respond appropriately. And now their supports are also picking up that mobility. The Glimmer Blink on Bane is going to make it very hard for them to start fights on their own terms, and the only way pub players have found even pickoffs is with a couple of lucky shackles. I can't say lucky, I mean, they're good shackles, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as convincing. 4 Clovers have had the map control for longest of times, and this is going to translate very easily into the Roshan. Pub players, in theory, have a reasonable team fighting inside the pit, but this just falls so quickly.
Yeah, with the Forge Spears, the Necro units, and the Solar Crest now as well. It's going to be pretty
Blink
easy for them to
Crush.
bring down. They do jump in, though. The Doom, though, immediately onto RNT. The Shiva's Guard should keep him at bay as well, and he's going to drop here. So they trade 1 for 1. Bane for the Slardar. The Lich Ult going to bounce nicely, but no Ice Blast on top of it. It's going to keep them safe for now. Level death. Bringing the Wind Ranger a little bit low, and they look to re-engage. Big right-click out of the Shadow Blade onto the Slark. It's going to force him out. Nice Shackle Shot will be there, but the Grave keeps him safe, and the combo, once again, not completely perfect from Pycat, but is enough to bring down the Wind Ranger. They get shock on the backside. Slark gonna survive, but really I mean, he cannot mount a defense on his own, and the Wind Ranger already having expended her buyback, it is down. The Slardar is short 95 gold of his buyback at this point, and they have the Aegis in tow as well. So 4CNL, certainly if they wish to do so, can start to chip away at this high ground.
This item advantage is just so huge for 4C now, and we're even going to see an item, I hope, this game that I have never seen before in professional play. An Aghanim Scepter on the Tusk could be a lot of fun for Sexy Bambo. But regardless, they don't even need any more items on the Tusk because he is so stacked. Everybody has what they need to contribute, and the same can't be said for pub players. Although this isn't translating nearly as nicely into high ground damage as maybe 4CNL would have liked to in an ideal situation, this dieback on the Wind Ranger isn't going to mean all that much. Eventually it will. We're only a couple of fights away from the point where if pub players aren't executing to perfection that they won't be, or that they'll be able to do anything. They kill off the Tusk up towards top. Now that's pretty nice for them with the Ice Blast and with the Crush from the Slaughter, but it's also just not nice enough. They need more.
Yeah, they're gonna need a BKB on this Slardar for him to be anything but a pick-off machine alongside this A. And mid lane, they're wrapping against Slark, and he's gonna be nightmared up. Dark Pact isn't there. TP's in from the Invoker to secure a good engagement, and they'll grip him up and save the Doom, even economically so. Shock gonna throw out the Ice Blast and the Chain Frost.
Getting some good bounces on a Pycat. They're going to blink in with the Crush coming out from the Slaughter onto the Bane. They'll get a return kill. Now a Shackle on a Pycat. The Invoker is locked into place. They have vision of him. They are going to be able to bring down the Aegis. Can they get the second life? I'm not so sure, because here comes the Bane. Here comes the Dazzle, and with the power of those two, they're going to be repelled. Tornado going to miss, and Pycat won't be able to find any more. Not sure what just happened to the Skype call. You're still here, MRP?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, and unfortunate. I guess a mid-team fight there. But yeah, very nice bounces on the Chain Frost onto Pycat. And they get lucky there. Maybe it's a little bit greedy from the Doom to hold on to his ultimate and instead of popping it off on the Lich so deep into the enemy side of the map. But either way, it's still pretty favorable for them. And they end up losing the Bane early as well, but still continuing to keep this Slark down, and he is completely irrelevant at this point. And the Slardar, I mean, in these team fights is getting more power, but needs that BKB desperately to be able to stand in the front lines.
And maybe even more than the BKB, he needs damage follow-up from the Wind Ranger and the Slark. I think the Slardar is doing what he needs to. He's finding good initiations, like the Crushes have been on point. But the Focus Fire isn't doing enough damage right now. You have the Chivas on the Doom, a lot of ways for them to mitigate that DPS, and even with just the Ags, it's usually not enough for Wind Ranger to be a powerhouse. You need like the Daedalus, or a Deso, an MKB, a Maelstrom, any sort of right-clicking damage item for Wind Ranger to scale, and they're just not finding it. Sexy Bambo in top lane, the Slark has been spotted out, Walrus Punch, Snowball, he's not going to be able to solo this Slark, and now looking for the pounce. The Slark wants to re-engage, they'll get a Blink Crush, connects onto EGM, but they're too deep. They don't know where the enemy's side is. If we take a look at their vision, the Bane was the only one that was showing. There could have been a Doom, there could have been an Invoker, but Invoker's bottom looking for a kill onto the Ancient Apparition. The Meteor Deafening Blast is there, and MDL melts to Pycat, who's on a mega kill spree.
Yeah, and they'll continue to shove the wave in as well and force these heroes underneath their own side of the map. Of course, really nothing to take elsewhere.
They're really going to go in here. They have a Bane initiation. They're going to EMP Sunstrike. EMP is going to connect. Sunstrike, however, will not. With that, Fiend's Grip should be lethal. They'll get a couple of bounces with the Slardar jumping, and Nico is isolated. Throws the Nightmare onto the Slardar. Right clicks onto Shock. The Lich will fall. Pycat's unstoppable. But can they get out safely? Do they even want to get out? Here comes the Tusk Snowball. Here comes the Doom, and they're going deep. They won't be able to get those kills, but they will get what's more important, and that's melee racks down towards Bob with the Necrobook that's on the ground.
Lovely play there from Niqua. He anticipated the mini stun coming out from the Chain Frost and was able to blink forward for the Brain Sap to finish off the kill on the Wind Ranger, and did put himself in a bit of a perilous position, but with the Glimmer Cape and the Urn Charge was able to sustain himself and bring down Shock as well. They're going to snowball through. They've got two members in the snowball onto the Slark, but he'll be able to Dark Pact off the stun, and now they're going to back off for the objective here. They find the melee racks and are going to be content with that for now. As the Slardar looking to rotate back, and he's going to get doomed up, though. RNT brought down, and they'll jump forward. MDL going to be nightmared up, and left for the snowball, and then left for dead. Walrus Punch going to be there on top of the snowball. All that's needed to bring...
No! GG's called out before I got to see a Walrus kick. Now that's sad. He hasn't completed on the career, but that was a very well executed game coming out from 4CL. In general, they were the ones controlling all of the fights. The double Shadow Blades works out amazingly for them as pub players just couldn't keep up with the tempo that 4CL were going for with the vast amount of rotations. Although the start was very even on either side, both of the safe lane farmers were severely hampered. Doom comes back into the game so much quicker than the Slark. Slark's flash farming mechanism is, although okay, not nearly as good as Devour, and Axmo by the end of it was swinging with the best of them. 4 Clovers run over pub players in this first game, mostly because they weren't able to transition off to the blink from the Slardar, which is very unfortunate. They put up a good fight, but in the end, not good enough. Still, it's not over. Another game coming up very shortly. Game 2 between pub players and 4CL up next with Grand SV and more Rage, please.